just to refresh, because it's been, I believe, over a month, what we're looking at in this book is one of the major works by Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, who's lovingly called the Ramak, who lived in the 16th century in Sfat in northern Israel. And we've studied together chapters 1 through 5, and if you've missed any of them, you can go to the YouTube channel for Adat Shalom and hear my teaching each and every week on each of the successive chapters. I think chapter 1 is up to something like 60 listens, and then they tail off, so whoever is listening to chapter 1 over and over again, I encourage you to move on to chapter 2 and chapter 3. They're also pretty good. Here we are, chapter 6. I'm on page 59, for those of you who are holding the book or the pamphlet in your hands. And the title for chapter 6 in the Hebrew, Heach Yargil Ha'adam Atzmo B'midat HaGevurah. How a person should accustom himself with the attribute of Gevurah, with the Kabbalistic attribute of Gevurah, which here is translated as strictness. But in modern Hebrew, Gevurah is often translated as heroism, or, Jonathan, you were saying something different? Greatness, right, greatness. So in Israel, right, for instance, here we celebrate Yom HaShoah, which is a day of remembrance of the Shoah, of the Holocaust. And in Israel, it is called Yom HaShoah v'HaGevurah. They remember not only, it's a day of remembrance of the Shoah, but a day of remembrance of the heroes who fought back and against Nazism and during the war. So it's fascinating to me that here Gevurah is used to mean strictness. I do think that both of them share a certain aspect of discipline in both translations, and we'll talk about it. But here we have to imagine, in chapter 5, we're coming out of a long list of chesed. If everybody remembers back, chapter 5 was all about the concept of chesed, of loving kindness. And so now we're going to the other side of the spectrum, right? If one side is boundless loving kindness, the other side is strictness, right? Or some kind of discipline, or we'll talk about heroism as well. Okay, so now I'm reading in the English text. Know that any action that arouses the Yetzer Hara actually arouses powerful Gevurah. So, now we have to take a step back and think to ourselves, what is the Yetzer Hara? Yetzer HaTov is the good inclination in humankind. The Talmud says that each of us contains within us a Yetzer HaTov, a good inclination, and a Yetzer Hara, and, okay, somebody said bad, somebody says evil inclination, but the Talmud does not want us to think that Yetzer Hara is evil or bad, because the Talmud said if people did not have the Yetzer Hara, we would never get married, we would never build houses, we would never have children, right? These are all the results of some kind of practical decision-making for ourselves, right? The outcome of decisions that if all we did was think about ourselves and the best that we could be, it would be difficult to take chances on other people if we think about it like that. It would be difficult to meet people and find the best in them because everybody is flawed. I don't see a lot of people nodding, so perhaps I'm the only one flawed, but I will say I am flawed. And to think that Blair could have looked at me and said, my lot in life will be better bound to him is an irrational decision that I thank God every day that she made. There's no guarantees in life. There are no guarantees in any of this in life. Yetzer HaTov would teach you a different kind of decision-making, like when you sit there in escrow and you sign 10,000 pages to buy a house. If you read each and every one of the documents carefully, there's no way any of us would actually purchase that house. It depends on a certain kind of ignorance of Yetzer HaTov, right, of good inclination to say this is going to work out. This is going to work out. So, the reason for this is as follows. Man was created with two inclinations, the Yetzer HaTov and the Yetzer Hara, of which the former is chesed, meaning our good inclination is all about loving kindness, and the latter, meaning the bad inclination, is Gevurah, is strictness, or is heroism. And I want you to think about the bad version of heroism. The bad version of heroism for Judaism, the bad version is Greek heroism. The bad version of Judaism is the idea of Hercules trying to do great things so that he gets accepted once again to Mount Olympus. That's not Jewish heroism. So when he says the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, is heroism, in a philosophical sense, Rabbi Cordovero is 100% right. I'm going to skip a few. The Zohar on Parshat Bereshit explains, and you're going to have to take Rabbi Cordovero's claim here on its face, explains that Yetzer Tov was created for the needs of the person himself. The Yetzer Hara was created for the sake of his wife. Now, I'm going to degender this language and just say it like this, okay? The Yetzer HaTov, chesed, loving kindness, is needed when a person deals with themselves. Yetzer Hara, or heroism, the way that Rabbi Cordovero wants you to understand it, strictness and heroism, is needed when a person thinks about their family or their community. Any of us. All of us now are in the workforce. All of us are now equal responsibility parents. All of us are doing this, so there's no reason to gender this language any longer. And he wants to explain, it is proper, I'm a bunch of lines down now, it is proper not to arouse the Yetzer Hara for one's own benefit, lest it arouse the supernal man. Ha'adam ha'elyon bigvura. And I'm going to go on and say every time you read that, you should read Hercules. Right? None of us want to become some kind of Superman, some kind of Ubermensch. That's not what we're trying to become in philosophy. With that Gevurah, with that attribute, with that kind of Gevurah, a person has the ability to destroy the world. To destroy the world. But when now I'm outside of the text, I'm speaking as myself, when we approach our profession or our job and we work hard, not for the sake of our personal gain, but for the sake of the benefit of our family, or for the sake of the benefit of the company, or for those around us. Some kind team building, I think, is what they call it in MBA programming today. Mike can correct me if I'm wrong. But when we work for the benefit of others around us, not for personal gain, not for personal glory, so much more is possible. Rabbi Artson always tells a story that when he first started at AJU, Rabbi Lieber, of blessed memory, told him, anything is possible for you to accomplish as long as you're willing to not accept the credit. And I believe that wholeheartedly in every organization. In every organization. Ideas matter. Ideas matter more so than credit. When it comes to synagogue, when it comes to Israel, so much of this, we know this concept. President Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And I think that Rabbi Cordovero here is very much a follower of the Maimonidean logic here, that the world responsibility takes place in concentric circles. First, we are responsible for ourselves, then we are responsible for our families, then we're responsible for our communities. Before I start looking to Africa and Asia and places far away, I have the responsibility to look at my own family, to look at this community at Dat Shalom, to look at Los Angeles, to look at my brothers and sisters in Israel. There are many, many concentric circles before I go find very worthy causes in far-off places that I'm not exactly sure who and what is involved. Maimonides sets it as a rule. He sets out the different levels of tzedakah. How do we give? Who is responsible? And here, personal responsibility is heroism when you want to take care of those around you, when everything you do in life is for the benefit of everybody that you love. And the wrong type of heroism is when everything you do is with the goal of glory, with the goal of glory and personal aggrandizement. So I'm going to skip towards the bottom of the very bottom of the chapter. I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the bottom. This method applies to all types of desire deriving from the Yetzer Hara. I'm going to read that one more time. This method applies to all types of desire deriving from the Yetzer Hara. They should be used mainly for the needs of those that we love, that God has chosen for us. Now, this happened to line up perfectly with Parsha Ki Teitzei, which is what we read this morning. Parsha Ki Teitzei, I'm in the Chumash on page 1112, if somebody would like to follow along. It begins, and you only need the first sentence. Ki teitzei lamilchama aloivecha. When you take the field against your enemies, and the Lord your God delivers them into your power, and you take some of them captive, and you see among the captives a beautiful woman that you desire, and you take her as your wife. Now the parsha it begins with a very, let's just say, using a Talmudic technical term, yucky scene, right? We're set into the middle of the battlefield, something that we have not yet experienced in the Torah, and we meet these enemies that exist for us sometime in the future, and we say that amidst the battle, it's possible that a Jewish soldier fall in love with one of the women from the place that we are actually fighting. And the comment by the Baal Shem Tov is that the reason that this is set out like this for us is to teach us that any inclination by the Yetzer Hara can be turned into Yetzer HaTov. The Baal Shem Tov says the reason that this is the premise, and the Torah goes through to say how you actually make her a wife in the Jewish people. That is to say that any of us has the path to turn something about our personality from Yetzer Hara into Yetzer HaTov. This month, Elul, we focus on tshuva. Anything that we've done for the sake of personal gain. If we've wronged anybody in the course of the year, we have the ability to turn it around this month. This month is, right, the national month of tshuva for the Jewish people. And we try to walk those things back to make them Yetzer HaTov. The person should redirect all of them. Everything we do ultimately is for the service of God, whether it be for the loved ones, whether it be for our community, binding them all to what is, I would say, right, meaning correct, and Kabbalistically, in quotes, right to the right side, meaning where our kavanah, where our hopes and dreams should always be. I hope this somehow helps us. When we think of Moshe Rabbeinu, we should think of everything that is right. And when we think of Hercules, according to Kabbalah, according to Rabbi Cordovero, we should think of everything that is wrong. Moshe Rabbeinu pleaded with God till the very end to not take him away from the Jewish people. Give him one more day, just give him the ability to cross the sea with us one more time, one more challenge for him to be there with us. Hercules wanted so much for his name, for his credit, that he be taken away from his community and be returned to some kind of divine community that would be waiting for him. Rabbi Cordovero reminds us that the greatest leaders that we've encountered are human. Sometimes human desires lead us to Yetzer Hara, but in the end, all of us have the ability, all of us, to always turn back to Yetzer HaTov, turn back to godliness and Torah and our people Israel. Shabbat Shalom.